The stars were cold and distant through the view screen of the Galactic Federation ship, Astral Horizon. Commander Olivia Mason stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the empty space ahead. Her blue skin reflected the soft glow of the ship's instruments. "Commander, we are approaching the coordinates," said Lieutenant Dale from his station. "Sensors detect a small vessel. It appears damaged." Olivia nodded. As an Arcturian, she valued efficiency and precision above all else. Her people were known throughout the galaxy for their logical minds and their natural distrust of emotional species, especially humans. "Scan for life signs," she ordered. Dale's fingers moved quickly across his control panel. One life sign detected. Human. Olivia frowned. This sector was restricted to Federation traffic only. Humans had only been allowed into the Federation 60 years ago, after centuries of proving they could be trusted. Many Arcturians, including Olivia, still had doubts. "Open. A communication channel," she said. The screen flickered, then showed the inside of a small ship. A human man sat in the pilot's chair, his brown hair messy and a small cut visible on his forehead. Despite his situation, he smiled when he saw Olivia. "This is Commander Olivia Mason of the Federation vessel Astral Horizon. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself and state your purpose." The man nodded. "My name is Alan Wright. I'm a diplomat from Earth. My ship was damaged by an asteroid field. I'm very grateful for your assistance, Commander." Olivia's eyes narrowed. "Our records show no diplomatic missions authorized in this sector." Alan's smile faltered slightly. "My mission is unofficial. I was sent to open talks with the Vordanai. The Federation Council thought it best to keep it quiet for now. The Vordanai were a reclusive species who lived beyond Federation space. They rarely allowed visitors, but their advanced technology made them valuable potential allies. "If your mission was sanctioned, why weren't we informed?" Olivia asked. "Politics," Alan said with a small shrug. "Some council members worried that if certain parties knew about the talks too early, they might try to stop them." Olivia studied the human carefully. Federation protocol was clear. Unauthorized vessels should be detained and their crews arrested for questioning. But something about the human's calm confidence made her hesitate. "We will bring you aboard," she decided. "But you will remain under guard until we verify your story." Alan nodded. "I understand. Thank you, Commander." 30 minutes later, Alan Wright stood in Olivia's office. Though he was technically a prisoner, he showed no signs of worry. He looked around with open curiosity at the sparse Arcturian decorations on the walls. "Your ship is beautiful," he said. "The Horizon-class vessels are famous for their efficiency." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "You know our ships?" "I studied Arcturian engineering at the Academy," Alan said. "Your people's designs are elegant. Nothing wasted, nothing unnecessary." Despite herself, Olivia felt pleased by the compliment. Most non-Arcturians found their style cold and uninviting. "Sit," she said, gesturing to a chair. "I've contacted Federation headquarters. They have no record of any diplomatic mission to the Vordanai." Alan sighed. "As I suspected, Counselor Ben Rogers arranged this mission personally. He wanted to establish contact before bringing it to the full council." "That would be against Federation law," Olivia pointed out. "Sometimes progress requires bending the rules," Alan said. "The Vordanai have technology that could help defend against the Krell expansion. But they won't deal with large delegations or formal committees. They requested a single representative." Olivia had heard reports about the Krell, a warlike species, from the Outer Rim who had destroyed 3 colonies in the past year. If the Vordanai could help against them. "I will need to verify this with Counselor Rogers," she said. "Of course," Alan agreed, though he may deny it officially. The council is divided on how to handle the Krell threat. Olivia studied the human's face. Arcturians were taught that humans were unpredictable, emotional, and often dishonest. But Alan's story made a certain sense. The Federation Council was notoriously slow to act, bogged down by procedures and disagreements. "While we await confirmation, You will remain aboard the Astral Horizon, she decided. We will escort you to Outpost 47, where you can arrange transport back to Earth. What about my mission to the Vordanai? Alan asked. If your story checks out, the mission can be properly authorized through official channels. Alan looked like he wanted to argue, but then nodded. Very well, Commander. I appreciate your fairness. Over the next few days, as the Astral Horizon traveled toward Outpost 47, Olivia found herself spending more time with the human than necessary. Alan was unlike any human she had met before. He showed genuine interest in Arcturian culture and customs, asking thoughtful questions about their history and traditions. Your people value truth above all else, Alan said during one of their conversations in the ship's dining area. I respect that. Earth's history is full of deception and war, but we're trying to be better. Trying is not the same as succeeding, Olivia replied. Alan smiled. True, but isn't the attempt worth something? The willingness to change? This was not a concept Arcturians usually considered. Change was often seen as unnecessary risk. One evening, Alan taught Olivia a human game called chess. She mastered the rules quickly, but his unpredictable strategies often surprised her. You play like an Arcturian, he said after she won their third game. Logical, methodical, but sometimes the strongest move isn't the most logical one. Olivia found herself smiling, an unusual expression for her species. Perhaps you are simply a poor player. Alan laughed, and Olivia was surprised to find the sound pleasant. As days passed, Olivia began to question the prejudices she had been taught about humans. Alan was thoughtful, respectful, and surprisingly knowledgeable about the galaxy. His presence on the ship brought an energy that she found both disturbing and strangely welcome. What Olivia didn't know was that beneath Alan's friendly exterior lay a dangerous secret. His mission was indeed unauthorized, but not for the reasons he claimed. The information he carried could change the balance of power in the galaxy forever, and he had been specifically trained to charm an Arcturian commander. As the Astral Horizon continued its journey to Outpost 47, two things became increasingly clear to Olivia. She was beginning to trust this human stranger, and that trust might prove to be the biggest mistake of her life. 3 weeks passed aboard the Astral Horizon. The journey to Outpost 47 was taking longer than expected, due to an ion storm that forced the ship to take a detour through the Cygnus sector. Olivia stood on the observation deck, watching the stars streak by. The ship hummed quietly around her, a sound she had always found comforting. But lately, her thoughts were troubled. Beautiful view, said a voice behind her. Olivia turned to see Alan walking toward her. In the 3 weeks since she had rescued him, the human had become a familiar presence on her ship. Against her better judgment, she had allowed him limited freedom to move about certain areas. The Cygnus Nebula is particularly vibrant, she agreed. Alan stood beside her, his eyes reflecting the colorful gases outside the window. On Earth, we have a saying, silver linings. It means finding something good in a bad situation. The ion storm delayed us, but now we get to see this. Olivia considered this. An interesting concept. Arcturians focus on solving problems, not finding benefits in them. Maybe there's value in both approaches, Alan suggested. A small smile touched Olivia's lips. These conversations had become common between them. Alan would share human ideas, and she would explain Arcturian perspectives. It was educational. Commander, the human has taught me a card game called poker, Lieutenant Dale had told her yesterday. It involves strategy and reading facial expressions, most unusual. The crew had initially been wary of Alan, but his open curiosity and respect for their customs had gradually won them over. He did not display the emotional outbursts or irrational behavior Arcturians associated with humans. I received a message from Federation headquarters, Olivia said. They still have no record of your mission, and Counselor Rogers denies authorizing it. Alan sighed. As expected, he can't admit to it officially without creating diplomatic problems. It makes verifying your story difficult, Olivia pointed out. I know. I appreciate your patience, Alan said. Most Arcturians would have locked me in the brig and forgotten about me. Olivia did not mention that regulations actually required her to do exactly that. Something about this human made her willing to bend rules she had always followed strictly. Later, that night while Olivia was reviewing star charts in her quarters, her communication console beeped. A coded message was being transmitted to the ship, not to her, but to a private receiver. The ship's automatic systems had flagged it as suspicious. Olivia's fingers flew across the console, tracing the message's destination. It was directed to Alan's quarters. As ship commander, Olivia had the authority to intercept any communication. She hesitated only briefly before using her access codes to decrypt the message. What she read made her blue skin pale to a lighter shade. Operative right. Rendezvous with extraction team at Outpost 47 scrubbed. New intelligence suggests Arcturian security aware of mission. Destroy all evidence of Platform Omega data. Maintain cover until new extraction point confirmed. Human Intelligence Command. Olivia sat back, her mind racing. Platform Omega was a classified Arcturian defense project, a weapons platform being developed in secret. How did Alan know about it? And Human Intelligence Command? That meant Alan was a spy. She had been deceived. The realization hit her with physical force. All the conversations, the shared meals, the chess games, they had been calculated to gain her trust. Alan Wright was not a diplomat but an intelligence operative sent to steal Arcturian military secrets. Anger rose in her chest, an emotion Arcturians rarely allowed themselves to feel. She had broken protocol for him. She had started to believe that perhaps humans and Arcturians could understand each other better. She stood up abruptly. The human would be arrested immediately and placed in secure detention until they reached Outpost 47. There, he would be handed over to Federation security for interrogation. Olivia marched down the corridor to Alan's quarters, two security officers following behind her. She pressed the entry panel with more force than necessary. The door slid open. Alan was sitting at a small desk, reading something on a datapad. He looked up, his expression changing from welcome to concern when he saw her face and the guards. "Commander, is something wrong?" "Alan Wright, you are under arrest for espionage against the Arcturian Union and the Galactic Federation," Olivia said, her voice cold. "Guards, search his quarters for any data storage devices." Alan didn't resist as the guards took his arms. He simply looked at Olivia with a calm sadness that made her even angrier. "I need to speak with you privately, Commander," he said quietly. "You have lost the privilege of private conversations," Olivia replied. "It's about Platform Omega," Alan said. "What it's really designed to do." Olivia hesitated. Then she nodded to the guards. "Take him to interrogation room 3. I will question him myself." In the stark white interrogation room, Olivia stood across from Alan, who sat with his hands flat on the table between them. The guards had been dismissed to wait outside. "You deceived me," Olivia said. The words tasted bitter in her mouth. Alan nodded. "About my mission, yes. I am an intelligence operative. But I never lied about who I am, Olivia, or about my respect for you and your crew." "Respect?" Olivia's voice rose. Olivia's voice. "You manipulated me to gain access to classified information." "Yes," Alan admitted. "I was sent to gather intelligence on Platform Omega. But do you know what Platform Omega is designed to do?" "It's a defensive weapons platform," Olivia said. Alan shook his head. "It's designed to target human colonies, specifically human colonies. The targeting systems are programmed to recognize human biosignatures and human ship configurations." Olivia stared at him. "That's impossible. The Federation Charter prohibits species-specific weapons." "Which is why it's being developed in secret," Alan said. "My government received intelligence about it 6 months ago. We needed proof before bringing accusations to the Federation Council." "You expect me to believe that Arcturian High Command is building illegal weapons to use against humans?" Olivia asked incredulously. Alan's eyes met hers. "Check the files yourself." Access the classified specs for Platform Omega. I'm betting your command codes can reach them. Something in his steady gaze made Olivia uncertain. What if he was telling the truth? What if her own people were violating the principles of the Federation they had helped found? If you're lying to me again, she began. I'm not, Alan said simply. I deceived you about my mission, Olivia, and I'm sorry for that. But right now, millions of human lives may depend on what you choose to do next. Olivia turned away, her mind in turmoil. Everything she had been taught about duty and loyalty to her people told her to ignore Alan's claims. But the commander in her, trained to protect Federation law, couldn't dismiss them without investigation. You will remain in detention, she said finally. I will look into your claims. If you have lied to me again, the consequences will be severe. As she left the room, Olivia felt as though the solid ground beneath her feet had suddenly shifted. She had trusted Alan, and he had betrayed that trust. Now she was considering betraying her own people by investigating his claims. Either way, nothing would ever be the same again. Olivia sat alone in her private quarters, her fingers moving across the control panel of her computer terminal. The ship hummed around her, its familiar sounds now strangely hollow. For the past 6 hours, she had been searching through classified, Arcturian military files. Her high-level command codes gave her access to information few others could see. What she found disturbed her deeply. Platform Omega was real. The weapon system was designed exactly as Alan had described. A network of satellites programmed to target human biosignatures and ship configurations. The official documentation claimed it was for defensive contingency, but the targeting parameters were clearly offensive in nature. Olivia leaned back in her chair, her blue skin pale in the dim light. Everything she had believed about her people, their commitment to logic, to fairness, to the Federation's principles, seemed suddenly in question. She had been raised to believe that humans were the dangerous ones, with their unpredictable emotions and violent history. But now she held proof that her own leaders were preparing for a preemptive strike against human colonies. The door chime interrupted her thoughts. Enter, she said. Lieutenant Dale stepped in, his expression concerned. Commander, we will reach Outpost 47 in 8 hours. Security teams have requested transfer protocols for the prisoner. Olivia nodded slowly. Thank you, Lieutenant. I will prepare the necessary documents. After Dale left, Olivia sat in silence for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked to the detention area. The guard nodded respectfully as she approached Alan's cell. Shall I remain, Commander? No, I need to speak with the prisoner privately. Security override Mason Alpha 3. The guard hesitated, then nodded and walked away. Olivia waited until his footsteps faded before entering the access code to the cell. Alan sat on the simple bed, looking up as she entered. His expression was calm, but cautious. You've checked the files, he said. It wasn't a question. Olivia nodded. Platform Omega is designed to target humans specifically, but that doesn't justify your deception. Alan stood up slowly. No, it doesn't. I was sent to gather intelligence on a weapon that could kill millions of my people. I did what I believed was necessary. By manipulating me, by pretending to... Olivia stopped, unsure how to finish the sentence. I never pretended to respect you or enjoy your company, Alan said quietly. That was real. Olivia turned away. We reach Outpost 47 in 8 hours. You will be transferred to Federation security. And then executed for espionage, Alan said matter-of-factly. I knew the risks when I accepted this mission. Olivia looked back at him, surprised by his calmness. You knew you would likely be caught and killed? Alan nodded. Sometimes one person has to be sacrificed to save millions. I made my peace with that before I ever met you. Something about his words struck Olivia deeply. Arcturians were taught that humans were ruled by emotion, by fear of death, by selfish instincts. Yet here was a human who had knowingly accepted a suicide mission to protect others. What will you tell them about Platform Omega? Alan asked. It was the question Olivia had been wrestling with for hours. Her duty as an Arcturian officer was clear: protect classified information, report to her superiors, follow orders. But her duty as a Federation commander was to uphold the principles that bound their worlds together, principles that Platform Omega clearly violated. "I don't know," she admitted. Alan stepped closer. "Olivia, if you turn me over without revealing what you've discovered, my death will mean nothing. The platform will be completed, and millions will die. If I reveal classified information, I will be branded a traitor," Olivia said. "Yes," Alan agreed simply. "Just as I am considered a traitor by some for trying to stop a war before it begins." Olivia realized in that moment that she had never truly understood what courage meant. For Arcturians, courage was following duty without question, but Alan's willingness to sacrifice himself for a principle, for people he would never meet, that was a kind of courage her people rarely acknowledged. She also realized something else. Her feelings for Alan had grown beyond professional respect. The thought of him being executed made her chest tighten in a way she had never experienced. "Return to your quarters," she said suddenly. "I need to consider our options." Alan's eyes widened. "Our options?" "Yes," Olivia said. "I haven't decided yet what I will do, but I will not let an innocent man die while I do nothing." As she turned to leave, an alert sounded throughout the ship. The intercom crackled to life with Lieutenant Dale's voice. "Commander to the bridge immediately. Multiple vessels detected approaching Outpost 47. On the bridge, Olivia stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 6 Arcturian warships were converging on the outpost, far more than would be necessary for a simple prisoner transfer. "They're here for both of us," Alan said quietly from behind her. Olivia turned, surprised to see him on the bridge. Lieutenant Dale looked uncomfortable but hadn't stopped him from following her. "Explain," she demanded. "I managed to send a partial message to my superiors before you arrested me," Alan said. "Just enough to indicate I had found evidence of Platform Omega. Your superiors would have detected the transmission. They know you've been accessing the classified files." Olivia's mind raced. If what Alan said was true, both of them were now considered threats to be eliminated. "Commander," Lieutenant Dale spoke up, "we're receiving a priority message from Admiral Voss of the Arcturian Defense Force." The main screen flickered, showing the stern face of Admiral Voss, one of the highest-ranking officers in the Arcturian military. "Commander Mason," the Admiral said, her voice cold, "you will proceed to Outpost 47 as planned and surrender your prisoner. You will also submit yourself for immediate security evaluation." Translation: she would be detained, questioned, and likely charged with treason for accessing the Platform Omega files without authorization. "Your crew will be reassigned and debriefed," the Admiral continued. "This matter is now under direct control of Arcturian High Command." Translation: her crew would be separated and silenced. "Acknowledge your orders, Commander," Admiral Voss demanded. Olivia looked around the bridge at her crew, loyal officers who trusted her judgment. She looked at Alan, who stood quietly waiting for her decision. She thought of the millions of humans who would die if Platform Omega was activated. In that moment, Olivia Mason made the hardest choice of her life. "Lieutenant Dale, plot a course for the neutral zone," she said calmly. "Maximum speed." Dale's eyes widened, but he nodded and turned to his console. "Commander Mason, what are you doing?" The Admiral's voice rose. "This is direct defiance of orders. I cannot follow orders that violate Federation principles," Olivia replied. "This channel is now closed." The screen went dark. "You're risking everything," Alan said in disbelief as the ship turned away from Outpost 47 and accelerated. "To full speed." "Yes," Olivia replied simply. "I am learning what it means to be human." The astral horizon raced through space, pushing its engines to their limits. On the bridge, Olivia stood calm and straight, but her mind was in turmoil. In less than 24 hours, she had gone from respected Arcturian commander to fugitive. "Warships are in pursuit," Lieutenant Dale reported. "They will overtake us before we reach the neutral zone." Olivia nodded. Are there any outposts or stations within range? Dale checked his console. Proxima Station is 2 hours away at current speed. Set course, Olivia ordered. It's our best option. Proxima Station was known throughout the galaxy as a place where rules bent easily. Built inside an asteroid, the trading hub operated outside Federation jurisdiction. Its independence made it a haven for those seeking to avoid official attention. Alan stepped closer to Olivia, keeping his voice low. What's your plan once we reach the station? First, we survive, Olivia replied. Then we find a way to expose the truth about Platform Omega. Olivia called the crew to the main briefing room. 40 Arcturian faces looked at her with confusion and concern. She had served with many of them for years. They deserved the truth. I have discovered evidence that Arcturian High Command is developing weapons specifically designed to target human populations, she told them. This violates Federation law and everything we claim to stand for. A murmur ran through the room. Arcturians were not prone to emotional outbursts, but even they could not hide their shock. Following my conscience means being labeled a traitor, Olivia continued. I cannot ask you to share that burden. At Proxima Station, any who wish to leave will be free to do so. No one will be considered disloyal for making that choice. The room fell silent. Then Lieutenant Dale stood up. Commander Mason has led us with honor and integrity for 5 years, he said. If she believes this course is necessary, I will follow her. One by one, others stood as well. Not everyone. Some remained seated, their expressions troubled, but more than half pledged to stay with their commander. Olivia felt a strange tightness in her throat. Arcturians rarely displayed such loyalty to individuals over duty. 2 hours later, the astral horizon docked at Proxima Station. The massive, hollowed-out asteroid bustled with activity. Ships from dozens of worlds lined the docking bays. Merchants, traders, and those with reasons to avoid official notice moved through the crowded corridors. We need to find someone who can help us access secure Federation channels, Olivia said as she, Alan, and Lieutenant Dale made their way through the crowded main concourse. All three wore civilian clothes to avoid attention. I might know someone, Alan said. When I was training for intelligence work, I heard about an ex-Federation analyst who operates from Proxima. His name is Sam Garcia. Olivia raised an eyebrow. And you trust this person? He left the Federation because he believed they were ignoring corruption, Alan explained. He's no friend of people who abuse power. Finding Sam Garcia proved harder than expected. Proxima Station was a maze of levels, corridors, and hidden areas. After several hours and many credits spent on information, they finally received directions to a small repair shop on level 7. The shop was cramped but neat, filled with communications equipment in various states of repair. A man with gray-streaked hair and dark eyes looked up as they entered. He immediately tensed when he saw Olivia's blue skin. We're looking for Sam Garcia, Alan said. You found him, the man replied cautiously. And you've brought an Arcturian commander to my shop. Interesting choice. Ex-commander, Olivia corrected him. Currently classified as a traitor by Arcturian High Command. Sam's eyebrows rose. Now that's even more interesting. What did you do to earn that title? Discovered plans for an illegal weapons platform designed to target humans, Olivia said bluntly. Sam studied her face, then looked at Alan. And you? You're not running with an Arcturian for fun. Human intelligence operative, Alan admitted. Also currently labeled a traitor. Sam laughed without humor. A human spy and an Arcturian commander working together. Never thought I'd see the day. He gestured to a door at the back of the shop. Let's talk somewhere more private. In a small back room filled with even more equipment, Sam listened to their story without interruption. When they finished, he sat back in his chair. I've been tracking suspicious Arcturian military movements for years, he said. Their ships have been positioning around key human colony worlds. Most people dismissed my concerns as paranoia. He turned to a computer terminal and pulled up a series of charts and orbital patterns. These are movements of Arcturian military vessels over the past 18 months. They're establishing a perimeter around human space, exactly where you'd position Platform Omega satellites. We need proof concrete enough to convince the Federation Council, Olivia stated. Without it, no one will believe an Arcturian commander conspiring with a human spy. Sam nodded thoughtfully. I can get your evidence into the Federation network, but we need something more substantial than the files you've already seen. We need the complete specifications and deployment plans. Those would be stored in Arcturian command systems, Olivia said. We can't access them from here. Actually, Sam said, we might be able to. I know a woman, Nicole Winters. She's a human diplomat with back-channel access to Federation communication systems. And there's an Arcturian engineer named Kel who's been feeding me information. He believes the militaristic direction of your people is a betrayal of Arcturian principles. Hope flickered in Olivia's chest. Perhaps they weren't alone after all. Over the next 2 days, their small group grew. Nicole Winters arrived first, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense manner. She brought news that the Arcturian warships had been ordered to find the astral horizon by any means necessary. Kel came later, slipping quietly into Sam's shop when most of Proxima Station was in its artificial night cycle. He was younger than Olivia, his blue skin slightly darker, his eyes wide with nervous energy. Commander Mason, he said, bowing, slightly. Your actions have caused quite a stir among younger Arcturians. Some of us have questioned the increasing militarization for years. Together they formulated a plan to infiltrate Arcturian command systems and extract the complete evidence they needed. It would be dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it was their only hope of preventing a war. During these intense planning sessions, Olivia found herself drawing closer to Alan. Their shared danger had created a bond between them that transcended their different species and backgrounds. One night, while the others slept, they stood together looking out a small viewport at the stars beyond Proxima Station. If we survive this, Alan said quietly, I want to show you Earth. Real Earth, not the sanitized version in Federation records. There are forests where the trees reach hundreds of feet into the sky, and oceans so vast you can't see the other side. When we survive this, Olivia corrected him. She surprised herself with the certainty in her voice. She had never been an optimist. Arcturians prided themselves on realistic assessment of situations, but something in Alan's quiet confidence had affected her. When we survive this, Alan agreed with a smile. Olivia found herself doing something she had never done before. She reached out and took his hand. The gesture felt strange, yet somehow right. Tomorrow they would risk everything on a desperate plan. But tonight, for a brief moment, there was peace in simply standing together watching the stars. Neither of them mentioned the word for what was growing between them. An Arcturian and a human. It would have seemed impossible just weeks ago. But as Olivia had learned, sometimes the impossible was simply waiting for someone brave enough to attempt it. The plan was dangerous but simple. Using Olivia's command codes and Kel's engineering knowledge, they would breach the central database of Arcturian High Command. Nicole would ensure their findings reached the Federation Council immediately, while Sam created backups that would be impossible to erase. Their small ship, borrowed from Sam, approached the Arcturian border station under a false registration. Olivia, Alan, and Kel prepared to board, while Nicole and Sam monitored communications from a safe distance. Remember, Olivia told them, we need the full deployment plans and targeting specifications. Nothing less will convince the council. The border station was relatively quiet with only a skeleton crew. Using Kel's maintenance credentials, they entered through a service airlock and made their way to the central computer hub. So far, everything was going according to plan. Kel worked quickly, his fingers flying across the terminal. I'm in the security network. Your command codes should work now, Commander. Olivia entered her access sequence. For a tense moment, they waited. Then the screen flickered, showing rows of classified files. There, Alan pointed to a folder labeled Omega Protocol. That's what we need. Olivia opened the files. Pages of technical specifications, deployment schedules, and most damning of all, target lists of human colonies appeared on the screen. It was exactly what they needed. Download everything, Olivia ordered. Kel inserted a data crystal, And the transfer began. A voice from the doorway froze them in place. "I'm disappointed in you, Olivia." Admiral Victor Reed stood there, flanked by armed guards. Tall and imposing with dark blue skin, Reed had been Olivia's mentor for years. She had once respected him more than anyone. "Admiral Reed," Olivia acknowledged, stepping protectively in front of Kel and the computer. "Stealing classified information, conspiring with a human spy," Reed said, his voice cold. "I trained you better than this." "You trained me to uphold Federation principles," Olivia replied, "not to prepare for genocide." Reed's face hardened. "It's not genocide, it's protection. Humans are unpredictable, violent, and dangerous. History proves they cannot be trusted. History proves that any species capable of change deserves the chance to do so," Olivia countered, "including ours." The data crystal beeped, indicating the download was complete. Kel carefully removed it and slipped it to Alan behind his back. Reed noticed the movement. "Security Protocol Alpha. Detain them all." The guards raised their weapons. In that moment, Alan moved with surprising speed. He pushed Olivia aside and threw himself toward Reed, just as a guard fired. The plasma blast caught Alan in the shoulder, spinning him to the floor. Chaos erupted. Kel activated an emergency alarm, causing the station's automated systems to activate. Lights flashed and security doors began closing throughout the facility. During the confusion, Olivia helped Alan to his feet and they ran. The plasma wound was serious but not immediately fatal. They needed to reach the ship. Alarms blared as they raced through corridors. Behind them, Reed shouted orders to his men. Ahead, the airlock to their ship waited. "Almost there," Olivia encouraged Alan, who was growing weaker with each step. They burst through the airlock just as security doors slammed shut behind them. Sam immediately detached from the station and the ship accelerated away. "Did you get it?" Nicole asked urgently. Kel held up the data crystal. "Everything. All the proof we need." While Nicole prepared the data for transmission to every Federation world and outpost, Olivia tended to Alan's wound in the small medical bay. "You took a blast meant for me," she said quietly. Alan managed a weak smile. Seemed like the human thing to do. The aftermath of their mission brought sweeping changes to the Federation. The weapons platform was dismantled, the conspiracy exposed. A new era of human-Arcturian relations began, though not without resistance from hardliners on both sides. 3 months later, in a recovery room on Earth, Olivia sat beside Alan's bed. The window showed a view of mountains and forests, just as he had promised to show her. "You could have left," Alan said, sitting up carefully. His shoulder was healing well. "After finding out how I deceived you after I nearly got you killed, you could have returned to your people." Olivia took his hand, the gesture now familiar and comforting. "I found the human who deceived me," she said, "and I chose not to leave. That is the most important lesson your species has taught mine, that true strength lies not in perfection, but in forgiveness." Around them, the first tentative steps toward genuine understanding between their species had begun. It was a fragile peace, built on painful truths and hard-won trust, but it was real, just like the bond between them. The end.